Good afternoon, viewers and listeners of Concerned Citizens Media. Hello and welcome back. Nice to have you here. Today is November 14, 2021. I will share some news in reading and on videos. So, the fighting still continue. OLA and TDF are still pushing to control more areas on the northern shore, and OLA is also, advancing its operation close to Addis Ababa. TDF especially, engaged in a very tense operation to control the Mille line, the line between Ethiopia and Djibouti, to choke off the Abiy Ahmed administration, the main import-export line. So the operation is very heavy in that area. So if any breakthrough come from that area, I'll report to you, but heavy fighting for the control of Mille and some areas in Afar region. So heavy fighting between TDF and the government of Abiy Ahmed, the Amara militia, Fano, all these, plus the Afar militia, heavy engagement in that area. So that is very tough. And the mass detention based on ethnicity continues in Addis Ababa and other major cities and the towns across the country, you can say, especially targeting Tigrayans, not because they did some crime, but because of their ethnicity. And still continue. Also, the arrest of Oromos still continue in Ethiopia. This administration don't feel any shame. He is, advised by Eritreans, advised by Amara elite to do this dirty business, dirty criminal conduct, which is not the best model for the world. So he should be condemned. And the United Nations, US expressed concern, but no major impact on Ethiopia, on Abiy Ahmed's conduct, and all these criminals engage in such behavior. So let's continue. Let's start with a very short video, Al Jazeera. Then I will read some news. Then I will have a couple of videos at the end. So thank you again for joining me.
Calm on the streets of the Ethiopian capital Addis Ababa, but this is a city fearing the prelude to a storm which is gathering on its doorstep. Draped in the colors of the Ethiopian flag, Ephraim Solomon, popularly known as Ethiopia's flagman, is out preaching patriotism to a nation divided by conflict. In these uncertain times of conflict, Ephraim preaches about unity and an end to the deeply entrenched tribalism in Ethiopia.
I have not had good sleep for the past 3 months. I keep worrying about the conflict. I therefore decided to do my bit and preach about cohesion to my people.
The Ethiopian government insists the capital and its bustling markets are safe. It has also been rallying residents to take up arms as a last-ditch defense against the rebels from Tigray, who say they have every intention to march onto the capital.
Addis Ababa is safe. The government has stepped up security, and I don't think those rebels will have any chance reaching here.
The Tigray conflict had a huge impact on Ethiopia's economy, which until now was one of the fastest growing in Africa. This is Ethiopia's Wall Street, the heart of Addis Ababa's business district. Traders say the conflict in Tigray and the COVID-19 pandemic have had a devastating effect on businesses here. It's not clear how much the war has cost, but economic analysts predict that Ethiopia's defense expenditure is set to rise to $502 million, up from $460 million last year. Overall economic growth is also set to significantly reduce from 6% last year to just 2% this year, the lowest in more than 2 decades, according to the International Monetary Fund. Just 2 years ago, Ethiopian Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed was praised by the international community. He was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize for ending the conflict with neighboring Eritrea. But his time in office has been largely defined by conflict. His government declared a state of emergency as the rebels made significant advances towards Addis Ababa. Many residents of the capital have answered the call to arms and marched to the front lines. Many others, however, feel the government's treatment of Tigrayan citizens, many of whom have been rounded up and detained, has been unacceptable.
I believe our government should stop targeting people just because of their ethnicity. The government must differentiate between the Tigrayans who are fighting it and the vast majority of Tigrayans who are peace-loving citizens of Ethiopia.
Tens of thousands have already
I
fled
hope
the
they will
conflict,
listen to
but
this
this
guy.
is the tip of what could be a bigger crisis. With a population of about 110 million people, a full-scale civil war in Ethiopia could easily become the biggest humanitarian crisis in decades. Mohammed Ado, Al Jazeera, Addis Ababa, Ethiopia.
Okay, thank you, Muhammad,
Advertising on YouTube helps me
for
reach
that
engaged
report.
customers like Jenna, who's been searching for landscapers on Google.
So I appreciate Al Jazeera. They are watching, well, what's happening in Ethiopia. So
We're gonna get news.
okay, I'll be back with Azar. I have 2 more videos. So thank you again. I hope they will listen. They are not listening to their own citizens and to the global community about what's happening in that country. They're just pushing everything to end with a gun, military force, and intimidating citizens, and targeting citizens based on their ethnicity. And that's, I said already, happened during US-Japan conflict and during the Nazi Germany time. So now is on 21st century. Abiy is implementing such brutal tactic against Tigrans and against Oromos, and he is not listening to anybody. His conduct is giving a wrong model for the rest of the world. Okay, let's read some other news. This is also about this targeting of Tigrans. Salesian missionaries arrested in Addis Ababa. Government forces in Ethiopia raided a center run by the Salesian of Don Bosoko in Addis Ababa and arrested 17 people, including priests, religious brothers, and employees, amid a general climate of uncertainty and tension in the country brought about by the year-long war between the government and the Tigrayan forces. Reports says that the raid was carried out on 5th of November on Central in Gotera in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia's capital, and the 17 people who were arrested were taken to unknown destination. The motive for their arrest remains unclear. Meanwhile, the Salesians, who have worked in Ethiopia since 1975, are continuing to pray for peace and unity in the country, and for the safe return of their arrested brothers. So church is not spared. In an interview with Vatican News, Father Giuseppe Cavalni, a Comboni missionary who has served in Ethiopia for 30 years, explained that even churches haven't been spared amid the government crackdown. A few days ago, he said, the military entered the Catholic Cathedral of Addis Ababa looking for people of Tigrinya ethnicity, and these raids are being done throughout the capital. Father Galvani also notes that many churches and missions in other places, including Tigray, have been looted or destroyed amid the fighting. He recalls in particular a Combonian mission in the western region, Benishangul, which was razed to the ground, forcing the priests and nuns to flee. So that's a challenge in that country. And as you heard, government security forces went to the Catholic Church and asked for the Tigrayans. I never heard of this thing. This is really ugly. And I hope Abiy stop and his advisors listen to concerned citizens and the global community. Stop this ugly act. This is very bad. They did on Oromos for the last 3 years under Abiy Ahmed, targeting Oromos, giving them name and arresting them, killing them, torturing them, and keeping the Oromo leadership in prison without any due process. So this government has no accountability for any act and don't care about the global concerns and warning. So he's losing, but he will do whatever he can until he's in that chair. Okay, World Health Organization chief says his home region in Ethiopia under systematic blockade. The World Health Organization chief said on Friday his home Tigray region in northern Ethiopia was being subjected to a systematic blockade and people were dying because of a lack of supplies. Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus didn't say who he thought was stopping aid getting through to Tigray, where rebellious forces have been fighting a year-long war with Ethiopia's government. Ethiopia's government has denied blocking aid to Tigray and has said it is rebuilding infrastructure. The United Nations has repeatedly called on the government to get aid into the north and has said that shortages there are man-made. Government spokesperson Legesse Tulu didn't immediately respond to a request for a comment on Tedros' statement on Friday. We cannot send supplies and medicines to Tigray because it is under blockade, and the blockade is systematic, he said. In an unusually frank public remark, he described the situation in Ethiopia as really distressing. War broke out in November 2020 between Ethiopian federal troops and forces loyal to the Tigray People Liberation Front, the ruling party of Tigray. Thousands have been killed in the conflict, which has since spread into two neighboring regions in the northern Ethiopia. Soon after the conflict started, the Ethiopian Army Chief of Staff accused Tedros of backing the Tigray rebels. He denied that. The World Health Organization Director General, who was Ethiopia's health minister during the era when the TPLF dominated national politics, has repeatedly said he is not taking sides in the war. No UN-organized humanitarian supplies have entered Tigray for more than 3 weeks, the United Nations said on Thursday, adding some 364 trucks are waiting in neighboring region, pending authorization from authorities to proceed. Around 80% of essential medicine is no longer available in Tigray, and most health facilities are not functioning, the United Nations said in a report on Thursday. The warring parties have so far rejected calls from the United States, the United Nations, and the African Union for a ceasefire. Both the government and the Tigray forces have set conditions that other rejects. Credit Reuters. So the blockade is still there, and the health facilities are, destroyed by Abiy Ahmed forces and the Eritrean forces and Amara militia and the FANUS. That's like they showed all the enmity that when you fight with another country, not with your own region, with your own citizens. So the enmity is very bad and still continue. Tigray forces say they will hunt down foreign mercenaries. Rebellious Tigrayan force threatened on Friday to hunt down foreigners they said were supporting the Ethiopian government as mercenaries and technical experts in a year-long war. Tigray People Liberation Front (TPLF) spokesperson Getachew Reda said the foreigners could be from Turkey, China, Israel, or the United Arab Emirates. Government spokesperson Legesse Tulu didn't immediately respond to a request for comment. There have been no independently verified report of the warring sides using mercenaries to date. Getachew told Reuters via satellite phone, "We don't care what their nationality is. We will hunt them down. They will be treated like the mercenaries they are." The war, which has killed thousands and forced more than 2 million people from their homes. The conflict escalated this month after rebel forces from the northern region of Tigray and their allies made territorial gains and threatened to march on the capital. The government says the gains have been exaggerated. So the TPLF dominated national politics for 3 decades until Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed took office in 2018 and curbed its power. So credit again, Reuters. So this is new development. This is new development, new accusation by Getachew Reda that Ethiopia using Turkish Israelis, and this is China, Israel, and the United Arab Emirates. 4 countries: Turkey, China, Israel, or the United Arab Emirates. This is dangerous development on part of Ethiopia. Ethiopia accused TDF using foreigners, but now TDF is accusing the Ethiopian government using mercenaries, foreigners from Turkey, Israel, United Arab Emirates, and China. Okay, we'll follow it, and we will report on you if further credible reports, come up on the news. This is about the U.S. Sanctioning Eritrea. So Ethiopia responded to that first before even Eritrea responded. Then Eritrea also responded later on. So Ethiopia requests U.S. to revoke sanctions on Eritrea. The Ethiopian government yesterday asked the United States government to revoke its decision to impose sanctions on Eritrea. The government of the Federal Republic of Ethiopia denounced the announcement made by the United States on November 12, 2021 to impose sanctions on the Eritrea. In a statement, the government of Ethiopia listed down what it called facts the U.S. failed to consider. It also urged the United States to take action against the real root cause of the current challenges in Ethiopia, the TPLF. The U.S. Department of the Treasury Office of Foreign Asset Control, OFAC, on 12th of November, designated Eritrean actors that have contributed to the crisis and the conflict and undermined the stability and integrity of the Ethiopian state, pursuant to Executive Order 14046. Sanctions were imposed on 4 entities and 2 individuals: the Eritrean Defense Force, the People's Front for Democracy and Justice, Abraha Kasa Nimariam, Hider Trust, Hagos Gebrehiwot W. Kidan, and Red Sea Trading Corporation. The FDRE government argued that the Eritrean government reacted to the imminent danger to its territorial integrity and security posed by the TPLF when it fired rockets at a sovereign country, Eritrea, following its unprovoked attack on the Northern Command of Ethiopian National Defense Force on November 3, 2020. Moreover, the Ethiopian government states that it has never laid accusations regarding the initial presence of the Eritrean forces on its soil in defense of their territorial integrity. The prerogative to put forth such a complaint lies with the government of Ethiopia and not any other country. The statement went on to reiterate that Eritrea has evacuated its military forces from Ethiopia following the declaration of the unilateral humanitarian ceasefire by the government of Ethiopia at the end of June 2021. This is a lie. The Eritreans are still there. So the government of Ethiopia don't care. They just keep lying, and nobody hold them accountable for their, lies. The government of Ethiopia does not believe that the state of Eritrea is an impediment to sustainable peace in Ethiopia. The Ethiopian government said, standing its ground, that the real and the present threat to peace in Ethiopia and the Horn of Africa region is the continued belligerence and aggression of the TPLF. It also accused the international community of emboldening the TPLF by failing to strongly condemn it. So that's the statement, strong statement in defense of Eritrea, Isaias Afewerki. So they just came up with this statement even before the Eritreans, the one sanctioned, responded. but they responded later on. I have that one too. But Ethiopia responded immediately and blamed the United States and and defend Eritrea. Eritrea has nothing to do with this conflict. The main problem is TPLF. Ethiopia never complained about Eritrea, so why the world care? All this to defend and continue their aggression. And when, I remember when TPLF was on power, all these Amaras crying about sovereignty, accusing TPLF, selling the country's border to Sudan for many, many years. Now they don't care about sovereignty. What they care about is use whatever resource, including foreign forces, to control that country and bring back the old regime. Okay, this is a response from Eritrean government. Eritrea condemns new US sanction. Eritrea on Saturday condemned sanctions imposed on its military and other Eritrean-based individuals and entities by the United States a day earlier, calling them a continuation of Washington's misguided and hostile policy. The Information Ministry said in a statement the primary aim of the illicit and immoral sanctions was to inflict suffering and starvation on the Eritrean people so as to spur political unrest in the Horn of African countries. No, the United States clearly said these sanctions are not targeted Eritreans, ordinary citizens. They are targeting individuals and Eritrean Defense Force. They are not even targeted their leader. Isaias is the one ordering all this operation. I don't know why the United States moving around. Abiy Ahmed and Isaias Afwerki and some other senior officials are responsible. But now, I don't know, they might come back again and hit him with other sanctions, I don't know. But so far, they are going behind him. Washington announced the sanction on Friday, targeting Eritrea for its role in the year-long war in neighboring northern Ethiopia. Washington said it was prepared to take action against other parties to the conflict. Eritrean Foreign Affairs Ministry on Saturday called on the United States to rescind the sanction. It said in a statement that the Ethiopian government does not believe that Eritrea is an impediment to sustainable peace and also urged the United States to impose sanctions on the TPLF, which it said was the real threat to peace. The U.S. Treasury Department blacklisted Eritrean military, its ruling political party, the People Front for Democracy and Justice, the party's economic advisor, and the head of the Eritrean National Security Office, accusing them of contributing to the conflict in Ethiopia. Earlier in the war, the Eritrean military sent its tanks and troops to aid its Ethiopian ally Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed. Eritrea has also used the conflict to settle old scores in Tigray. Also on Saturday, the state-appointed Ethiopian Human Rights Commission published a report accusing the rebels Tigrayan forces killing at least 184 civilians in the Amara region in July and August, and said abuses the forces committed may amount to war crimes. TPLF fighters willfully killed scores of civilians in town and the rural areas they captured, and systematically committed large-scale looting and the destruction of public and private properties, the report said. TPLF spokesperson Getachew Redda didn't respond to comment requests on the report. We have repeatedly reported such violence and atrocities the terrorist group made to our people, government spokesperson Legesse Tulu said in a text message. Credit for this one again, Reuters. Okay, the last part of today's news. Israel senior Mossad officials resigned over organizational changes. At least 3 senior officials from Israel intelligence agency Mossad have resigned over organizational changes made by the new director on Thursday. According to the Israeli TV channel, the 3 officials were some of Mossad's most senior officials. The channel reported that a 4th senior official is already considering quitting, noting that they had resigned due to the changes made by the agency's new head, David Berner, who succeeded former director Yossi Cohen in June. According to the Times of Israel, the Israeli TV channel identified the officials who resigned as the heads of the technology, operations, and anti-terrorism advisors. The officials said that the Barnea had decided to divide responsibility with the spy agency, splitting existing branches and merging divisions. Some Israeli mass media outlets described the wave of resignations among Mossad's officials as an earthquake. Barnea, also known by his nickname Daddy, served as a combat soldier in the elite Sayeret Matkal Commando Unit and has worked with Mossad for 25 years. He was appointed Cohen's deputy in 2019. So, Middle East Monitor credited for this news. Okay, thank you for joining me again. Let's see a couple of videos and end today's presentation. So the first one is Kenya president visiting Ethiopia, very short one. Maybe Abiy called him, or President Uhuru Kenyatta has a message for Abiy. We don't know, but he is in Addis. Maybe I hope he will tell him, to leave the country or something is cooking, but we don't know.
We have news from further afield, and President Uhuru Kenyatta on Sunday arrived in Ethiopia for a visit amid armed conflict raging in the country.
Pictures shared by Ethiopia's Prime Minister Abiy showed President Kenyatta arriving and meeting with Abiy and President Saleh Work Zedit. It is not clear what President Kenyatta's mission to Addis Ababa is, with State House describing the visit as a private one.
Now, President Kenyatta last week called on the Ethiopian government and the Tigray People's Liberation Front, the TPLF, to stop hostilities and instead engage in dialogue and resolve their differences.
It's not always the most wonderful time of the year. So if you could use a holiday from the holidays, you could probably use a pancake.
Okay, advertisement.
A U.S. appeals court on Friday upheld its decision to put on hold President Joe Biden's vaccine mandate for companies with over 100 workers. A 3-member panel of the 5th U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals in New Orleans affirmed its ruling despite the Biden administration's position that halting implementation of the COVID-19 vaccine mandate could lead to dozens or even hundreds of deaths. Circuit Court Judge Kurt Engelhardt wrote that, quote, the mandate is staggeringly overbroad, calling it, quote, a one-size-fits-all sledgehammer that makes hardly any attempt to account for differences in workplaces and workers. Vaccine mandates are deeply controversial in the United States. Supporters say they are a must to put an end to the nearly 2-year coronavirus pandemic, while opponents argue they violate the U.S. Constitution and curb individual liberty. The Fifth Circuit judges appear to agree with the opponents. The rule was issued by the Occupational Safety and Health Administration, or OSHA, and mandates that businesses with at least 100 employees require staff to get vaccinated or face weekly tests and mask requirements. White House officials had no immediate comment on the ruling. Biden announced the requirement in September, telling Americans that, quote, our patience is wearing thin with those refusing to get inoculated. The mandate was set to go into effect in January.
There you go. So that's the last part. Thank you. And we're looking for something like this. The difference between the judiciary branch, the judges, total and complete authority, to give their decision based on the rules of the land, the constitution. And, this is not happening in Ethiopia or some other, commonly in Africa. The president, if, sign executive order, that executive order can be challenged by the court, and lawyers can bring the lawsuit. If the court agrees with the president's idea, then that will be the final, and the citizens must obey that ruling. So I appreciate the U.S. system, really. The president is not, above the law. Yes, he is the executive branch, the head of the executive branch. Doesn't mean that everything he signed will be carried out. There is a challenge by the judiciary branch. That's why we're missing in other countries, in Ethiopia especially, so many Oromos in Ethiopia jail, in Ethiopian prisons by this administration, without any court appearance, without any hearing, without any due process. And they are using different tactics to extend their hearings. And no accountability for people just assassinated in public view. And just throw their bodies in rivers, forests, and any place. Nobody can be accounted. That's the challenge we have. That's why we have concerned citizens media, and that's why we want to change. And the leadership is failed, and still some people they don't see it. The country is failing in multiple fronts. I repeatedly said Ethiopia is not in a good shape, but still those who are advising Abiy Ahmed, those who are following him, still support him, and they don't see, the dark tunnel he is taking them, and they don't see the bloodshed. Those young supposed to be in school, they are fighting, joining the army without even giving them proper training. Just those seniors are also joining. They're supposed to be, retired with dignity, and get some assistance. So this is the challenge we have. This is the bad situation in Ethiopia, and nobody is listening. And I hope Jomo, Uhuru Kenyatta and Nigerian former president Obasanjo and Jeffrey Feltman, all this effort will produce something. And I hope Abiy will listen to their advice. Just open up the door for the citizens to engage in dialogue and reconciliation, fix the country's problem. And you are not part of that solution. Just open up and, face justice for the bloodshed you caused, for all the crimes you committed in Oromia and other areas, and in Tigray. You deserve, to face justice. Really, too much blood in your hand. So I hope the targeting of citizens, the mass arresting and looking for Tigrayans, I hope it will end soon, and also the Oromos. And this is very ugly tactic and must end. And those supporting Abiy Ahmed blindly, they should stop. They should stop and call for his resignation. Really, this is bad even for themselves. We don't know what's happening. Whose turn will be next? We don't know. So this is a wrong tactic. This is a wrong methodology, and must stop. Must be stopped. So that's all I have for today. I will be back with other news and updates. Thank you for joining me. Please subscribe, like, share my videos so we can, share updates with global news, especially on Ethiopia. Thank you so long and enjoy your Sunday.